Hello. This tutorial will cover how to create the V-roller assembly shown here. Currently the V-roller has got a red bearing in the center. We will also create our own custom bearing depending upon the usage we need. There's also a base here to attach it to some of the device, some other object that we need. We're also going to cover how to create joint origins as well as how to insert parts from other websites. You can insert parts from McMaster. They've added a couple of new ones. We're going to talk specifically today about how to upload those parts from outside sources that don't automatically have Fusion 360 integration. So we'll need these parts right here, these 5 parts. These are actually from a robotics kit. So let's go ahead. I'm going to create a new folder. I would suggest you do the same. That way we've got a place to put all of our parts. I'm going to get inside this folder, and this is where I'm going to create my assembly. I'll leave this one open just so we can look at it for reference if we need to. I'm going to go ahead and start a new design. And the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and save that. And we'll just call this V-roller assembly. We'll get our, this is where we're going to create the assembly. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to add in all the parts we're going to upload. A couple of places to get those. You can go straight to the website that sells them. This is a robotics website, but there are plenty of websites that sell parts for rover or robotics or engineering that also have CAD files. Step files are the most generic version of a CAD file that work with pretty much any CAD software you're using. If you're coming for this for a rover assignment, you can go ahead and navigate to your current year for rover, navigate down to the Fusion 360 project, and then down at the bottom of the project there is a Google Drive folder with all of the step files you need. If you're coming from engineering or robotics, you can click on either of the CAD model practices on the Fusion 360 website, and that will take you to another place for model files. There will be a file right here, and when I click on this, opens up the Google Drive, and this is the same exact thing that the Parrish rover would do. If I click on this, now you can see I've got 2 of them open. So I'm going to go ahead and grab all of these at once. I'm going to right click and download. It's going to convert this, since it's more than one file, it's going to convert it into a zip file. And hopefully it won't take too long to download. There you go. So it's got the five files zipped and downloaded. You will need to go in to your downloads. On a Mac, you can just double click this and the Mac will go ahead and extract it to a file. On a Windows PC, you just right click, hit extract, and they both do the same thing. They create another unzipped file with all the parts inside of them. So these are all the parts that I need. I've got them right where I want them. Make sure that you know where this location is. I'm going to go ahead and minimize that and close out of some of these things that I no longer need. Come back into Fusion. Come over here to the upload menu, and then we're going to select files, and you're going to navigate back to that location. My PC saved it, so I'm going to select all 5 of these and click open. That's going to bring open the upload dialog. It's got all of these. So I've already got those selected. They're already there. I just have to come down here to the bottom right and hit upload. So it'll show up the progress bar. Depending upon your internet connection, this may zip along pretty quick, or it may take a while. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video. I'm going to let all these upload while the video is paused, rather than making you sit here and watch it and wait for it to upload. Okay, so all my files uploaded. It took a good 3 or 4 minutes for all of them to upload. You can see it says the folder's been updated, so we'll click refresh. And we can see all of those parts are now in my folder. And I still have the V-roller assembly as my open project. So now we can go ahead, start pulling these pieces into my model. So I'm going to select this first one, the channel. I'm going to right click and say insert into current design. I can go ahead and put this in the position that I want it. I'm going to grab the rotate handle, rotate it 90 degrees, and hit OK. And that's where I want that. It's got this link. I'm going to right click and say break the link. That way it won't, if I make a change to this, if I make this smaller or adjust this anyway, it won't affect the original one. Next thing I'll do is I'll bring in the shaft collars, right click, insert into current design. And I want this to face that way, so we'll rotate it 90 degrees. And okay, you can see, number one, there's a link. I'm going to right click and break that. But this is already its own assembly. There's the shaft collar itself, and there's also a little set screw inside of there. So I want to make sure that when I grab one of these things, that both of those things, the shaft collar and the set screw, that those two things move together. So I'm going to expand this. It's got these two components. I'm going to create an as-built joint. I'm going to select this component and this component. Those are the two I want. I want a rigid joint. I'm going to hit OK. And when I do that, when I move one of these things, the other one moves as well. And that's what I want. I want this thing to stay as a unit. So we'll go ahead and minimize that. We'll put that back to its original position. And I need two of these. So while this top level is activated, I'm going to select the shaft collar, right click on it, and say copy. And then right click out here in white space. I'm going to paste another one. The other one's right on top of it, so I'm just going to drag the arrow, slide it off to the side so I can see it, and hit OK. So now I've got my two shaft collars. I need this D shaft, right click, insert into current design. Once again, I'm going to rotate this so it's in the orientation I want. Rotate it at 90 degrees. We're going to say OK. It's kind of hidden behind the piece, but it's there. That's fine. Hit my home view to get back. So I got the shaft collars. I'm going to need two of these bearings. Insert into current design. Once again, so one of these, I'm going to go ahead and rotate that one that way, 90 degrees. These are flanged bearings. So you can see there's a little flange right there. And that's going to kind of go into this side of the channel piece. Oops, I got to make sure I break my links. And then I'm going to take that bearing. I'm going to copy it, right click and paste. And this time I'm going to rotate it 180 so it's facing the other way. Going to hit, ooh, yeah. Okay, so you can see there's one facing this way, one facing that way. I should have slid it over a little bit so it's easier to grab, but it'll be okay. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to right click, insert into current design, that V-roller, and that's where I want it. Fantastic. Let's hit OK. So the easiest trick, I'm just going to grab these and start moving things out of my way so I can kind of see things. I'm going to grab that guy. I've got all my pieces here. All of these are cylinders. This and this are cylinders. These are going to be attached to the ends. To get these two things lined up in the center of the hole, we're going to need to create a joint origin that sits right here in the middle of those parts. That's going to be the easiest way to do it. So I'm going to go up here, going to select a joint. Well, let me see. Leave everything in that position. Yep, okay. So I'm going to need to create a midplane first. We'll leave everything in this position. I'm going to select the inside face and this inside face. So now I've got a sketch plane right there. So now I'm going to sketch on that plane, and I'm just going to create a projection of this piece, just so that I've got the center of that circle. You can kind of see the origin is not the center of that circle. So I'm going to select this face and select OK. And now when I go back on that center sketch plane, I've got all that geometry. So I'll go ahead and finish that sketch. I forgot to break my link. We'll go ahead and do that now. So now I can come in here, create a joint origin, and it's going to see, if I grab this circle right here, if I hover on that line, you can see it's going to snap. I can either grab that point, so I didn't see that before it was hidden by the piece. I can either grab the circle and it'll snap to the center, or I can just grab the center. And we'll do that. We'll say OK. And if I turn off that sketch that I made, that joint origin is still sitting there kind of out in the middle of nowhere, which is right where we want it. That's totally fine. But that's going to make it a whole lot easier to line up some of these parts. We can go ahead and create a joint. I'm going to grab the center. If I just hover over this part, you can see there's a joint origin on the end. There's one in the middle. There's another one on the end. If I select this one in the center, and then select the center joint origin right there, it's going to put it, and we're going to want this thing to rotate. So we'll go ahead and call a revolute joint right there, and that's going to rotate inside of there. I can also go ahead and create another joint. I'm going to grab the inside of this circle, and as I come over here, that kind of middle disappears. I'm not really sure if that's the right one. So I'm going to hover over the inside of the pulley. I'm going to hold down the control key on my PC. If you're on a Mac, I think it's the command key. And now I can move my mouse anywhere. In the end, the center, and the end stay put. So I'm going to grab the center of that V pulley. Once again, I'm going to come over here. And I can either turn off the shaft. I'm going to actually turn off that joint and turn that joint origin back on. That's still right there. I can grab that joint origin. I can attach the V pulley. I can attach it to the center of the shaft. There's multiple ways to do it. I'm going to actually attach it to the shaft. So I'm hovering on the shaft, holding control, and selecting the center of the shaft. So now the pulley is rigidly attached to the shaft, so that when the shaft rotates, the pulley is going to rotate. So we're good there. I'm actually going to turn these two things invisible just for a second. We're going to get rid of the shaft and get rid of the V-roller. We're going to go ahead and put these bearings in. The bearings are going to go on the inside of the channel. I think I might have misspoke earlier. They go on the inside of the channel so that they can't fall out. So we'll do this one right here. This might be a little bit easier. I'm going to grab that inside face right there. I'm going to select the joint. So sorry. I just want to drag you. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. I want to assemble. I'm going to grab this face, but I want the center of that face down there. So I'm going to hover over that face. I'm going to hit the Control or Command key. I'm going to grab that joint origin, and then I'm going to kind of spin around so that I'm on the inside of here. I'm going to grab this face, and hopefully it's obvious. Let me see if I can't turn it a little bit more to make it more clear. When I'm on this face, I hold the Control or Command. I can grab the center of the circle as well. I'll select that joint origin, and now that flips right into place. If yours didn't go the right way, you may need to hit the flip command. but now my bearing is seated in that hole, which is exactly the way it would happen in real life. We're going to do that again. Start another joint command. I'm holding down the shift on my keyboard and my middle mouse button to rotate. If you're using the trackpad, you can come down here. A 3-button mouse is significantly easier. So same thing, I'm going to hover over this face and hit the Control or Command key. I'm going to grab that center origin, Shift and my middle mouse button, or else you have to use the commands down here if you're on a trackpad. Hover over this face, hold down Control and grab the center of that circle. And now that bearing is rigidly locked into place. Okay, so I've got those guys. I'm going to turn back on the D shaft and the V roller. Things are looking pretty good. You can see, maybe, but on the V roller, there's a little bit of, let me get rid of the clutter, get rid of the channel. The V roller has got a little bump on it, so that the side of the V roller doesn't rub up against the bearing. And that's going to be important because when we design our own V bearing, we want to make sure we put something similar on there. And the last thing we have to do is put on these shaft collars on the ends of the shaft. So we'll do another joint command. I'm trying to think about how I want to do this. I need to get that flat part of the set screw to be on the flat part of the shaft. So we'll start the joint command, and I say I want to grab, we'll just give this a shot. I'm going to grab this face, that right there, and I want that to be in the center right here. So if you notice when I hover over the end, there is the plus sign, and then there's also the square. The plus sign is the center of the circle, and I think the square is like the center of the area. So I'm going to click on here, and that brings it over. I actually want that little bearing flipped the other way, so I'm going to hit the flip command, and then I'm going to look at the end, and I'm going to kind of cheat and just rotate this. Oh, I need to look at it with a little bit of an angle. I'm going to rotate this until I can see the bearing line up. There we go. So that's going to be 270. Can you see the little bearing hole through the window? It's going to be 90, 180, or 270 from where we started, or 360, not 360. Let me the full way around. I'm going to hit OK. And then now when I look at that, the set screw is lined up with the flat part of the D shaft. Okay. And then I'll do that once again for the other side. Start the joint command. This side of the set screw, once again, has got a little nub on it. You can put that against the bearing so that these two don't prevent each other from moving. There's a little gap in there. We want it to not ride on that. We want to have it sit right here so that it doesn't stop the bearing from moving. So I'm going to grab the center of that face. I'm going to grab the center of this. It's going to move it over there, and right now it did not come in the way I wanted it to, so I had to hit the flip command. And then same thing, I'm going to rotate this. I can kind of see that this is up top, so I can go ahead and cheat. I know it's already up top, so I just know I have to come over this way. I rotated 90, but it was 270, so that this should be where the set screw is. Great. We'll hit OK. Hit the home key, go back to our view, and everything looks fantastic. Okay, so that's the V-roller bearing. We've assembled all those parts. We're happy. I'm going to save this. say assembled parts. I probably should have been saving as I went along. You got to make sure you have at least a minimum of 6 saves for every CAD assignment. I guess I put some colors, so green, yellow, and blue, and red. So I'm going to hit the letter A for appearance. Come down here to paint. We'll just grab some glossy paint. I'm going to grab the green. We'll just do it green shaft and yellow bearings. Yellow shaft collars and blue bearings. We'll see if I can remember that. Hit the A key. The green is going to go on the shaft, so we'll just put it on the D shaft. So that's green. I think I said yellow for the bearings. It actually got both of them. When I pasted, I didn't do paste new, so whatever I do to one, I do to the other one. I think the bearings were blue. There you go. And then I think I put the red on the V-roller. Let me see how I'm looking. Yeah, that's great. You can come in here. I'll hit the A key again to bring it up. You can do all sorts of stuff. You can put metal in there. This is actually made out of aluminum. So I can put an anodized glossy gray aluminum on that. But it doesn't do a great job with the colors. It just looks a little bit dark. If you were to render this, then all these things would look a lot more realistic. CAD's not wasting effort making it look pretty. It's going to save its horsepower for doing all the calculations we need. Okay, so we've got all those. That looks really good. So what do we have to do next? I have to make a little base for it. Let's make a new pulley. Okay. So let me save this again. I'll say appearance. Get some saves in there. So we need some of the dimensions off this pulley. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hide the visibility and everything else so that I just have this pulley. I'm going to right click up here at my top assembly, create a new component. We're going to call this Pulley 2. So my red pulley is still here as a shadow. It's the only one that's visible, but this is my active component. So I'm going to need to measure a couple things. I'm just going to leave this right here. I'm going to create my sketch on this front XZ plane so I can kind of look at it right there. And I'm just going to start measuring stuff. Come up here to inspect and measure. And I'm going to come over here. I want to figure out how wide this thing is. So I'm going to go from that face, kind of rotate it over here, zoom in to that face. And it tells me that my pulley is 1.2 inches wide. So I'm going to do the same thing for my pulley that I create. I'll start with a line. I'm just going to make a horizontal line that is 1.2 inches wide. I kind of put it down here in the middle of nowhere so I can use this constrain command. I'm going to take the midpoint of this line and I'm going to fix it to the origin. When it turns black, it means it's fully constrained. And I'm going to change this. I'm going to right click, change that to a construction line. So that'll be my center axis. I'm going to do the exact same thing again. I'm going to make another one. That's 1.2. I'm going to kind of put it up here. Let me go ahead. I'm going to make a vertical construction line as well. I'm going to hit the escape key, select it, and then right click and say construction. And then let's see if I can get away. Midpoint of this line on that line. There you go. So now I can move this up and down wherever I want to, but I can't slide it left or right. So this is going to be the inside of my pulley. Whoops, a daisy. I want to do that. Going to rotate here. I want to see how big that inside is. So I'm going to inspect and measure again. I'm going to grab that circle right there. And my diameter is 0.25. My radius is 0.125. So I'm going to go ahead and set this sketch dimension from here to here to be my radius, which is 0.125. We'll hit escape to get out of the dimension tool. So now I can do that center part. I want to get the dimensions on that nub. I want to figure out how thick it is this way and how far it sticks out. So I'm going to measure this circle and this circle. The distance, cut around the edge. The distance between those circles is 0.025. Okay. And I will probably forget that, so let me go ahead and I'm going to draw. How's that going to work? I need to come up here, I need to come up vertically upward, and I need to come up 0.025 inches. That's teeny tiny. I'm going to grab this measurement. I'm going to slide it over there. That's the up 0.25. Now I need to figure how far to come in to make that little nub. So we'll just draw a line. I'm going to hit the escape key. Let me come over here and measure it. Sorry about that. Keep forgetting to hit the shift key when I try to rotate. So I'm going to inspect and measure again. I'm going to grab this outside circle and grab that inside circle. It tells me the distance, 0.0275. So this distance right here, I'm going to come up, grab my dimension tool. I'm going to put in 0.0275 and hit enter. So that's the dimensions of the little nub. This thing's going to come up. Let me measure. Whoops. Measure how tall this is. I'm just going to grab this circle right here. 1.1045. So I'm just going to say mine is 1.1. I'm just going to cut it in half and say 0.55. Also going to close out of that. So this is going to come up. Let me dimension this, and I'll say that let me think. I went from this center point to that dot to be 0.55. So now I'm just going to kind of, I know that's my maximum height that I want to get to. So I'm just going to take a vertical line from here, and I'm going to come up, not all the way to the 1.1, but just a little bit down from there. 0.3 looks good. I'm going to say check. And then here's where we're going to get the curved part of our pulley. I'm going to grab this spline tool. I'm going to anchor one end of the spline to here. I'm going to put something up around here for the top of my pulley. Come back down here to where it comes back down in. And I'm going to do one in the middle. And this is really going to be whatever looks good to you. Now we get all these weird little control things right here. I'm going to escape out of that and click. This blue line is my spline. Splines are controlled by these handles, and the handles adjust the curvature of the line and then the further out, they adjust their radius. So you can see I can kind of tilt this. I'm going to put these handles horizontal so that this kind of comes in flat. And then I'm going to grab this handle. That's going to do both of them. And I'm going to scoot it out pretty far. I'm going to take this handle and just kind of scoot over. This guy can lighten up a little bit. I'm going to click on here. Instead of making it curved in, I'm going to kind of make it go gently down into there. And I'm just going to make it where it looks nice. Okay. So this is a rather flat and shallow section. This is what we would use if we were putting a belt on this pulley. Belts are usually kind of flat and wide. If we're putting a piece of rope or a piece of string, this is a more traditional V shape. So this would be more of a pulley for a belt that we're creating here. This pulley is more for a section of rope that would sit in there, rope or tubing. A lot of times in robotics, they'll use urethane tubing for intake collectors, and a lot of times in rover, we use belts to tension things. So just different pulleys for different things. So now I've got this whole side of the pulley. I can come up here to the mirror command. And I'm going to say I want this chunk, this chunk. I'm going to zoom in, this chunk and this chunk. I've got all those selected. I'm going to select my mirror line to be that vertical reference. That's why I added it in there. It's going to add in the other half of the pulley. We're going to say OK. And everything's going to kind of get that shaded blue color. That means it's a closed profile, which is great. I can go ahead and finish my sketch. And when I've got a closed profile, I can come up here, and instead of doing the extrude command and extruding it straight out, I'm going to hit the revolve command, and it's already selected that profile. It's already kind of guessed what I'm going to do. It's asking me to select an axis. That's why I created this line. And it's already guessed that I want to do a full 360. So now I've created my own pulley. It's got the little nubbin on the end like this one does. My diameter matches its diameter. My total height is very similar to that height. But the profile of this pulley is very different. We'll go ahead and set OK. And you can see, looking from the front view, this is much more for a rope. And this is much more for a flat belt. If that's too tight, if that's too vertical and not enough give in there, then by all means, we can come back down in here, can right click and edit that sketch. And if I click just this line, it brings up those control points again. And if I need to kind of slide this in a little bit so it's a little bit more curved there, I can do that. The farther it comes out, that's really bad. It goes into an overhang. But if I bring this in, it's a little gentler right there. So there's no magic right answer to this. It's what works well. If this was a part for a robot or a rover, we would 3D print it, see how it works, and then try again. Sometimes you just have to test and see how it works out. So that's my pulley. I'm going to go ahead, close those triangles. I'm going to come back up here to my top menu, activate my top level menu. I can see I've got both pulleys. I'm going to turn everything else back on. I'm actually going to turn off the V-roller that was already there. Let's make this mid A for appearance. I think I'm out of paint colors, aren't I? Click on paint, glossy. Yeah, grays and whites aren't really going to help us. So I'm going to right click on this one and say duplicate. I'll make another red one. I'm going to right click and then say edit. And then we can just use this slider to pick whatever makes you happy. So I'm going to go see if I can get some kind of nice bright pumpkin orange. Then I'm going to grab that, drag it onto my pulley. Look at that, perfect. Sometimes you get lucky. I'm going to joint. I'm going to grab the inside of this shaft and hit the control key. I'm going to grab that center of that shaft. I'll just come on here, back again to my D shaft. rotate it. I'm going to hit the control key and grab the center of the D shaft. And we're going to leave this rigidly attached to the D shaft as well. Hit OK. So now we can kind of toggle back and forth between our two pulleys. Turn one off and turn the other one back on. And just see what we like. Both of these could be 3D printed. We can kind of go from there. Okay, so let me go ahead and save that. We'll call that pulley number 2. Whoops. And hit OK. And the last thing we got to do is just make this base. And I just want to show you how to keep this same pattern into the profile here. So this will go, hopefully this will go quick. All I need is this aluminum piece, so I'm going to go ahead and turn off the visibility of all the other pieces so they just don't clutter everything up. I'm going to right click up here. We're going to do a new component again. I'm going to name this as base and hit OK. I'm actually going to kind of come underneath here to the bottom side. I'm going to create my sketch plane. I'm just going to hover over the bottom of the part right here. I'm not sure. Yeah, that origin. You can kind of see that plane is not really on my face. I want to make sure that I'm using the bottom part of the part. Sorry, that's kind of redundant. So I'm going to come hover over here, select, and if I kind of rotate around 90 degrees, you can see my sketch plane is right on the bottom of the part. So, oops, I lost it. Go back around to the bottom. I want this geometry to be in my sketch. So I'm going to come down here to project and include. Make sure that the specified entities, I just need this surface. I'm going to hit OK. And then now if I wanted to, I could really even just turn off that aluminum piece. But I've got that whole sketch profile right there. So I'm going to do a center point rectangle. We'll just keep things nice and easy. I'll do the center of this hole, and I'll just come out and we'll just say 3 tab 3. We'll do a little 3-inch box around this guy. I'm going to hit enter. And then now I've got, I'm going to go ahead and turn off the piece of aluminum. So now I've got that sketch inside of my other sketch. So it's wonderfully helpful. So I'm going to extrude, finish sketch first. I'm extrude, I grab this, and then not the holes, but around the holes. And then I'm going to extrude this downward. 0.2 inches sounds fantastic. So now I've got a piece that I could 3D print that's going to match up perfectly with my aluminum piece. Okay, if I kind of come up here, you can kind of see that those holes are a perfect match. Now, depending upon what we're attaching this base to, I could come in here to this front face. I could draw a couple circles where we could mount this on a pipe. I could come into our frame of the rover. I could come in here and put more of this robotics pattern here if we needed to bolt this to something else in robotics. But just to finish up and keep it easy, I'm on the assembly. I'm going to come back down here to the base. I'm going to activate the base once again so I can get into all these things and make sure it stays where I want it. I'm going to create a sketch on the, I'm going to come around and do the this bottom face again. I'm going to do a little rectangle from this corner down to the bottom. It's going to be 3 inches tall. That's how big my base is. I'm going to hit tab and let's just say a 1/4 inch, 0.25 or 0.2. That's how thick the other piece is. And then hit enter. So there's a little rectangle on there. I could do the mirror command, but it's going to be faster just to do it by hand. I'm going to do 0.2 and enter. So I've got rectangles on both sides. I'm going to finish that sketch. Once again, we're looking at the bottom. Don't let that freak you out. We're going to grab that side and that side. We're going to grab and pull these downwards. And we're just making stuff up as we go. So we'll call that 0.25. Going to make sure that this is on join so that these side pieces are attached to the other piece. We'll come back and look at it. This is probably a little bit taller than this one, but it doesn't really matter. We'll go ahead and activate. Let me save this again. We'll say base. I can activate everything else. We'll put a color on the base. I'm going to hit the A color for appearance. I'm going to right click, duplicate the blue, right click and edit. I think I had some kind of purpley color. Whatever makes you happy. Kind of go in there and see what it looks like. Fantastic. We'll close out that. We'll save this one more time. Base color and hit OK. So I think I did it. Oops. I've got all my parts. I broke all the links so I didn't mess anything up. We talked about how to do the joint origin. We talked about how to import all these parts. We can come in and we can switch between the V-roller that's on there and our other pulley. And I think that looks really good. I think I did it. I think we're done. Same thing. This is the original I did. And I think we got it. Okay. Fantastic. So let me just save it. Make sure I didn't mess anything up. You'll need to, what does Miss Makins want for us to turn in? If you're robotics or engineering, you can just save this and then upload, or just leave this in your CAD model practice file, and I'll come look at it in your folder in Rover. Yeah. Let's take a screenshot of this. Take a screenshot of that and upload a screenshot of this into your journal folder for Rover. If there needs to be corrections, we can do that and let you know. But this is how to make it. Everything looks good. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, please just email me. Have a great day. Bye.